I'd like to call a meeting to order. This is the May 25th, 2022 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. We'll start with continued business. We, some time ago, had issued an enforcement order to the Angkor Monastery for a project location on 205 Billerica Street. And they've come tonight to request that we close out this enforcement order since they have been complying with the work that we asked them to do out there. I was just at the site and spoke with someone, and we talked about, the rest of the commission doesn't even know this, we talked about small things that might be done. Good evening, Mr. Nguyen.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioner members. With me is Reverend Lamb. He's actually told me that Madam Chair was there about half an hour before the meeting tonight. We did, when there was enforcement orders in place and Madam Chair recommended and member of the commission recommended certain step to take care of. We did just that, and so tonight we just ask Madam Chair and the members to remove the enforcement orders. I was told also, Madam Chair, that half an hour ago that you were there, the gateway, the way to the waters was actually intruded, including the Reverend and member of the clergy and older elder went to the waters and all that, and actually was in the way away from the area where we plant seeds to have the grass in the area. Madam Chair saw that, and I know that Madam Chair recommends that the Reverend cut those trees down, so to give way to the tree that now was planted. We will do just that as Madam Chair recommended.
Well, we need to present that to the rest of the board. I'm only one person here.
I understand
so,
that.
And perhaps some other people have some suggestions as well, so we'll talk about it.
Sure.
But I did get a nice tour, and it's looking very nice out there, I think. Flowers everywhere, and the grass has come in very well. So what we were concerned with the enforcement order was replanting a number of trees. I believe there were 6 trees that were replacing things that were cut down previously. Two of the replacement trees might not make it. One of them definitely looks like it needs to be replaced already. And there was some grass grown, and then we did talk about the path that goes down to the river. So I'll do that in opposite order. It was, they were trying to grow grass as we requested on this path that goes down to the river. And in my mind, this is going to be an attraction going forward, that people who are using the property are, are going to want to go down to the river. So the task then, I think, is not to make sure the grass grows, but to make sure that the erosion doesn't occur as people walk there. It does look like to be very poor soil. It's very dry. It's not something that grass would grow easily in. So I had in mind 2 suggestions. The first was mulch, which I'm not really a fan of mulch. It has to be redone every year, and it can be messy, and it can also wash into the river. The second idea I had was perhaps not completely paved with paving stones, but maybe just 4 or 5 stepping stones that would attract people to put their foot on the stone rather than somewhere else as they're walking down to the river. And we spoke about being careful to not add any material to the elevation of the site, that if stepping stones are usually quite thin, the thickness is really, if you use slate, it's quite thin, but you would still need to take out some of the soil and put the stone at the same elevation that the soil is at there now. So you're not adding any elevation, you're not filling.
Right.
And once again, I'm not suggesting that it be totally paved, because then you'd have runoff that would not soak into the ground, and that would cause a problem.
Right.
But just, paving stones are usually about this big around. I'm thinking of natural stones like slate. And, if you had 4 or 5 of them spaced the way people walk, that would keep them from wearing out whatever grass you can grow on the sides of them. So that was one issue. The other issue is the 2 trees are going to be, or at least 1 tree is going to be replaced. They've done a good job of fencing in the trees, because apparently there are beavers eating the trees, unfortunately.
She did, one of the 3.
And 2 of the trees were too much in the shade. I don't think they would be successful. So there were 2 sumac trees of about 15 feet tall in not very healthy condition that I suggested might be taken down to let some more sun in. And also 1 tiny limb, the first lowest limb on quite a large tree, was reaching out and shading the new plantings. So in my mind, those things should perhaps be cut back.
Sure.
And I'm just presenting that to the board now. Does anyone have any recommendations or questions about the site?
Your propositions seem reasonable. I agree that the most critical area is that bit of erosion at the path. Slate's probably the most cost-effective way to solve the problem, but I would leave that up to however they'd like to have it presented.
Okay. We do try to go back in a year and make sure that the plantings are doing well and have not died, and I think you probably have a year warranty or guarantee on the trees to be alive as well from the person you bought them from. They usually guarantee them for at least 1 season to live. So is there anyone online? Is Bill with us tonight? Bill, would you like to comment or make a motion of some sort?
Sure. I have no comments. I saw the pictures. It looks like the restoration activities were consistent with what we asked for last year, and I think your suggestions, Commissioner Varnum, are good ones. So I have nothing other than to maybe offer the motion to rescind the enforcement order, given that the work's been complete, but note that we'd like to make sure that the restoration takes for a year.
Okay, we have a motion to rescind the order with the stipulation that we will be visiting back in next spring to see how things are doing. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Perry. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed, and thank you for your good result out there, and I hope things go well from this point forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner.
Yeah.
Member, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Good night.
Good night.
Our next agenda item is a request for determination of applicability put forth by Zerlene Santos Correa of 534 Wentworth Ave. This particular request has been put in for a continuance, I believe. Is there anyone here that was interested in this project?
Hello,
They've
can you hear me?
requested that we continue their discussion of it until our next meeting. Is that correct?
There is someone here on Zoom to speak on this petition.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have someone on
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Greetings. Could you give your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Ian Ainsley from Meister Brem Corporation. Ms. Correa hired us to assist her with this RDA, and we've just kind of started the work on our end. So we just don't have the plan survey. There was like floodplain calculations needed, et cetera. So we are working on that, and I just wanted to continue until we have all of that information ready to go.
Okay, so you're reinforcing and giving in person the request for a continuance. And that would be the next meeting you're interested in, is that correct?
Yes,
That would
what
be
is the date of the
June
next
8th?
meeting? June 8th,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect from the board?
I'll make a motion to continue 534 Wentworth Ave to the June 8th meeting.
Okay, motion made by Perry, seconded?
Second.
Seconded by Brad, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll be hearing that at our next meeting. Now we
Thank you.
have some new business. We have a request for determination of applicability sent by Gary Legere of 138 Rea Street. This is a request to construct an addition to their home, and the proposed work is located within the 100-year floodplain. Is there someone here for that? You step up and give your name, please.
Hi, I'm Gary Ledger.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
We did see some plans. I was out and took a quick peek at the lot. Were you here for a deck a couple of years ago? The house looked very familiar to me for some reason.
Oh, next door, they added it.
Oh, was it next door? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I finally did find the street, so I did take a look, and when we say that the entire lot is within the 100-year floodplain, I think that over time, many of the lots on that side of the street have changed their elevations. Is that something that's a true
actually-
statement?
In anticipation of this meeting, I contacted the original surveyor, and he did submit documentation to me that the structure is actually not in the flood zone.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could present that. the
Did we
committee?
get that in our packet, Fran? I think I remember seeing something from, was it from FEMA?
Yeah, from Jim Aho is the surveyor, and it's from FEMA, and it was for removal of the structure in the flood zone.
Okay, all right, I remember seeing that. That was sent out to us, thank you.
Okay.
Well, and with the elevations the way they are today, would your addition go beyond the slope?
It would not, no.
No, okay, because that's, even though you say the house is out, your backyard is definitely in the
Correct.
flood zone.
Yeah, the addition is right on the side of the structure, so it would not impede the flood.
So you would not need to do any further work as far as grading in order to, is that structure going to have a foundation?
There's going to be a foundation there, yes.
Okay. Does somebody from the building trades have some questions about this?
I have a full set of plans, and I have the paperwork from the surveyor. I don't think you got the full set of
Well,
plans,
if you show us something, sometimes we have to keep it, so that's why I'm not,
but- Okay,
it has to become part of the record.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not in the floodplain, then there's not a whole lot for us to do.
Yeah, I was about to say, if it's not in the floodplain, it's not technically the jurisdiction of the
Yeah.
commission, right? So,
Yeah, well, my concern would just be that halfway down the project, somebody didn't say, oops, we've got to fill in 10 feet more in the back. So that was my concern when I saw the lot, that if you had the elevation that you needed right now in order to do the project.
Yes, yeah, we're not planning on doing any grading or anything in the back. That's not part of the project.
Okay, so this is a little tricky in that it would be within, right next to the flood zone, but they did get a statement. So what's the pleasure of the board here? Do we have a motion?
I mean, we would certainly, need you to verify that nothing is filled within the flood zone through the duration of the project. No compensation can be added. No material can be stored in the flood zone additional from what it is right now. That's all I think we can mandate here.
Yeah, any materials or anything will be removed from the property.
So I could make a motion to provide a -3 determination.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the motion with the,
I'd make a motion
Fire
to
department.
grant a -3 determination.
okay, -3 with the stipulation that no more changes in elevation in the back would be required. Seconded?
I got a comment, I
Yeah,
agree that.
go ahead, Bill.
But I'm wondering, if it's not within the
Can
work.
you wait until the
Hold on
fire
one second,
trucks
yeah.
go by?
All right.
Go ahead.
I guess just point of clarification, if the proposed work is not within the floodplain, then it's not within our jurisdiction. So why are we voting on something that, where the act isn't applicable? I would agree if that, if it encroached on it and if, it's only a little bit, then, we could issue a -3. But I'm just raising that as a question and maybe, Fran or someone, I mean, what do you think in this situation? I mean, it's,
There's likely another category. I think -3, something like
yeah.
it's within the jurisdiction, but it won't affect the resource area. So I can pull up the
I was trying to do that.
DOA form.
I didn't
Yeah,
bring my
I'm trying to-
paperwork tonight. Oh, you've got one. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's, to that point, to Brad's point, I just think there might be I guess the question is there a better fit for the determination
Yeah,
than a -3?
that-
I would agree if the work is inside the floodplain,
Yeah.
then -3 is perfect. But if it's not within the jurisdiction or if it's close to, I'm just wondering if there's a better
Yeah.
one to vote on.
Area described is not an area subject to. Or is it -4?
Um, I think several of them. I think the reason for even saying it's within the jurisdiction is that approximately half of the lot is still in our jurisdiction, even though the house might not be. So my concern would be, just as we stated, that no more fill be put in the back half of the lot, which is floodplain.
All right, well, with that said, I mean, the intent is that the work would not, the property was within the jurisdiction and any work, the intent is it would not impact the resource. And obviously, if they're avoiding work in the 100-year floodplain, they'd be avoiding an impact to the resource. So with that said, maybe a -3 determination is the appropriate one. And with that, I will second Brad's motion.
Okay. Any further
Sorry, Brad.
discussion of the motion? Okay, All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and so you're able to go ahead with your project. The office will send you some paperwork, and, we would, I guess, kind of take a look at that after you're done.
Okay.
You might tell us when you finish up, and we'll take a look and
Okay.
see how it went.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night. Next, we have an enforcement order that was given to S&R Corporation, the project location 204 River Road. There was fill placed on a vacant lot that reaches down to the Merrimack River. So I was out there and took a look at the vacant lot. Hello. Could
Hi,
you
how are you?
identify yourself, please?
Yep, my name is Stephen Plouffe from SNR Corporation. I'm the treasurer and one of the owners.
Okay. Well, I did go out there to take a look because we did get a couple of pictures, but what was the purpose of the fill?
I actually know the family personally that owned property on either side of that. We had some clean fill that we had available and offered it to them. And at some point, unintentionally ended up down on the city's property. And I guess the one thing, I hadn't gone out and measured personally, but the folks, or my folks would, I guess, have measured it back and I guess would clarify that their measurements came up that we weren't within the 100 feet of the bank, but at the end of the day, I just want to make it right, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the extent of the fill, whether any has been taken out right now, but in my view of looking at the lot, there appears to be quite a bit more that needs to come out. I'll have you come in a minute, if you don't mind. The board will talk a little bit, and then we'll have comments, okay? I'm concerned about probably a 200-year-old oak tree that's been filled in around its base, and two other fairly large trees have been filled in around the base. They're not going to survive that type of treatment. If you look on the city GIS, you can see that that was basically a swale, probably an original drainage right down to the river. And the properties on either side were higher, which is probably why there was room to put fill in there. But I can't say one way or the other whether that was floodplain as well as bordering, maybe not vegetated, when we say bordering land subject to flooding would probably be the better description of it. But I tried to measure back from the river, and we're concerned with anything that is at least within 100 feet of a resource such as a stream or a river.
Sure.
And something that was obviously a drainage area with the elevations that are shown when you see those V-shaped contours, that's an indication of drainage through there, which doesn't exist anymore, and I don't know what the ramifications of that would be going forward. So my thought was, first of all, that it's loose soil. We need a silt fence of some sort at the base of the slope. Not close to the base, because I'm hoping the base of slope is going to be pulling back. there are two large boulders that I'm thinking probably were not there originally. They look like they were rolled down the slope.
Okay.
At least two boulders. I'm going to get to you in a minute. And as I said, the trees are of great concern to me. That's a magnificent oak tree, probably at least 200 years old. Well, maybe that would be an exaggeration, but it's over 100, I know that. And I think there's work to be done out there, and therefore this enforcement order was certainly justified. And I know you have the equipment to perhaps restore that site.
Yeah.
So I'll let other people speak. Let's get the board to say something first, and then we'll have the public. Who's got questions about the site? If you look at that topography from the city GIS, it's very clear how much, probably at least 6 feet deep of fill has arrived on that lot. Well, if nobody from the commission has a question at this time, I'll have the public comment.
Okay, I was actually going to say that I actually have some photographs that depict what's out there, and I have enough to so everyone can keep a set.
Okay, are those the same photos that we were sent earlier? We were sent a couple photos of trucks dumping fill. No?
I think these are taken by your
this-
folks?
The ones I have are taken from.
Yes.
From,
So the ones that you were sent were taken by Dylan. So they're different photos.
yeah, they're different.
Unless you guys got extra photos.
No, we got two photos. I think it was the ones from Dylan.
We got two photos.
Yeah, so
Well,
these are
we'll see if they're
additional.
the same when we look at them. Thank you. Okay, it does look as if this was a convenient composting site probably for the neighbors with some of the things that are in this photo. But it appeared to me that you had tried to mediate what you'd done out there by smoothing it out.
We did.
But my opinion is that there's still too much fill. I'll take some comments from the, I presume you are a neighbor?
Just grab my stuff here, I'll get out of the way.
Yeah, hi, my name's Greg LeBranch, and my brother Matthew LeBranch. We live on either side of what we always called the gully. I played in the gully since I was old enough to climb down in there. As far as a drainage pipe, there's no such thing underneath the road. It did, in the earlier years, have the river wash up into it, and it would look like a stream or a brook. But there was never running water coming down that gully all of my life. My grandfather owned the property from my brother's house for the next 5 lots. We're on either side of 204. I'm 194, my brother's 210. The two boulders that you speak of have been there since the granite road was put in to protect the pipe. The two oak trees that you're talking about are only alive because I have kept them alive. The invasive vines planted along that road to keep trees from growing on it now encroaches on all of the trees and bushes all the way to the street and across the street. Maybe it was a good idea to protect the pipe with that invasive type of vines. I don't know. But I spend every spring cleaning those trees off from the invasive vines so they don't get killed.
Well, thank you.
The dirt that is in there is not going to harm either of the two oaks that you're speaking of. They will be fine. That oak tree on my property was My father had a Boy Scout camp there with that oak tree and a picture in it. You're right. Those are hundreds of years old, probably more like 3. My reason for being here today is to protect the river and my brother and myself's property more than anything. What this man has done, accidentally, inadvertently, I'm not really sure. It was my birthday, that's all I know. He doesn't know my brother well. My brother is the landowner next door. When that road went in, the excavation and the equipment to build it all went up and down that ravine. They scooped out a bunch of my brother's property so that it's eroding into his backyard. You can see it in the images. He has been here many times to purchase the lot, many times to get the dirt replaced that was scooped out of his land to put that road in. This is all taxpayers' dollars. This is all Clean My River. I appreciate conservatorship. I still don't know why at night I have to smell raw sewage flowing through my backyard. What is with a conservation community that will allow raw sewage to be dumped into my river once, twice, 3 times a month at least? It's horrible. What he has done is prevented that ravine from being a dump site. You had it right. Not compost, though. I would love compost. My dad was a farmer. The stuff that I pull out of that gully, urine from a bus driver. I didn't want to call and report him. I put his urine bottles on top of a stump right out where he would park so he would see that someone's observing him throwing urine bottles in there. Paint cans, TVs, you name it. Toxic waste. People think nobody's going to notice. I pulled out wheelbarrows of roof shingles. Point is, what he has done is prevent further toxic waste from being dumped on our riverbank. And that's what I was here to share with. My brother doesn't want to bother with filing a lawsuit. We've tried many times. Why not let the LaBranches have that little piece of land that probably originally belonged to my grandfather anyway, before it was made an easement by the city of Lowell, or whatever it was made for, because it was not. It did have like a ravine, like you say, and maybe in the older days with melting snow, it would find its little way and make a path there. But as far as runoff water, well, please don't put any more salt down on River Road, because it's washing right into the river, with or without that ravine.
So
He's done a good justice for the river, is my point.
What is this pipe that you speak of?
It's a sewer line, because when I was a little kid, we would go fishing at the bottom of Burnham Road, where all the raw sewerage would dump straight into the river. You could watch human waste, toilet paper, Cheerios, whatever anybody flushed. It would dump straight into the river. That road, now between my house and the river, has been put in. Once a year, they'll send down some tractor trailer, whatever, to cut everything down. But in the meantime, all the invasive plants are growing, killing every tree along the bank. If you go back and look, and you go through my yard, you're welcome to, you'll see all the nice trees that I have saved that are not encroaching on the pipe. I get the idea. If trees grow above the pipe, the root's going to crush the pipe. Then we have raw sewage not even making it to the treatment plant, where they can open the gates when it's overwhelmed and let it back into the river anyway. But my childhood, we had raw sewage at the bottom of Burnham Road. It's now being piped up to the treatment facility.
So this pipe that's going through this property is no longer used, is that the case?
No. I'm talking about the pipe from the bottom of Burnham Road up to the treatment facility across the river in 110. Duck Island.
It runs parallel to River Road between the houses and the river.
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right, so
There's a huge pipe that you can...
It's
Louisa.
enclosed in riprap, isn't it?
It's enclosed in a granite road, big, huge chunks of granite. Those 2 stones that you're talking about were part of the granite that was used to put that there. They
Louisa?
put those stones have been there since the road.
Yeah, Bill?
So I'm trying to get a little clarification here, and I'm looking at the figure. The pipe that you're talking about, I'm wondering if that was a historic outfall pipe when you had these combined sewer overflows. So when the water, you had a heavy storm event, to the gentleman's point, you'd have sewage and stormwater combined together and discharging out into the river. What I don't know is, this sounds like it's more of a question for the water utility here, because Lowell
Yes.
under its MS4 permit is supposed to eliminate all their CSOs. What I don't know is if that one's been mapped and now it's been abandoned and, it's no
No,
longer
no,
an issue.
there is no way that's abandoned. My toilet flushes into that pipe, which gets drawn up into the treatment facility, as does every other resident in that section of Belvedere.
All right. Well, and that pipe might be part of the MS4 permit, because the idea is when you have these storm events is you need storage to hold the waste until the storm surge goes down. And I do know that the city, as part of its MS4 permit, had to put in what we would call a storage pipe to manage the extra waste during storm events.
It's for the raw sewage that originally dumped straight into the river at the bottom of Burnham Road. All the sewer lines in my neighborhood go to the bottom of Burnham Road, into that pipe, up to the water treatment facility. That pipe is encased by huge chunks of granite on the riverbank and on top of the pipe. You can drive a bug up that pipe, a Volkswagen Beetle bug.
I think that you guys are saying the same thing.
He's calling it an overflow pipe, and it's the overflow
storage
pipes need to come out of the street. That pipe that won't serve anything other than pulling sewage up. It's that big because it handles both the overflow. So we get heavy rains. It goes in the sewer lines. Those sewer lines are connected to the raw sewage lines. They're the same lines.
Understood. Yes.
Right.
Yes. You guys are in agreement. You're just saying it differently.
Yeah, I agree with
It's
Brad.
that large for the overflow.
Yes, but
Just don't argue with each other about that point.
Yeah, I'm not looking to argue. I'm just saying I'm just trying to understand, and I guess my question is that, did the filling and is that pipe in proximity
No.
to? All right, so
they're not even close to each other.
because when I look
The
at the
pipe
figure
is on the
that-
riverbank.
okay, and then
The
looking at
fill
the
is
fig-
on the street, off the street edge.
Sure.
Yes.
Can you let him talk?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my only question is that the area of fill, is it in the area where there's that no dumping sign where the basketball court is on the figure that was produced to us? I'm trying to understand where the filling took place. I understand that there was a gully, as you called it, and people historically did some illegal dumping there, and filling it in, would probably prevent that. But what I'm trying to do is understand where it is on the pictures that I see, because all I see is two pictures, one with the truck, grading, and then this other picture, with a telephone pole where it says no dumping, and I'm guessing that, it's that area between the blue house and the house next to it is the area
Yeah,
you're talking about, that house. That's the
It's
area
much
that was-
closer. It's much closer to River Road than this overflow pipe.
Yeah, Bill, I would say that the fill extends from the street, it comes off level from the street and goes probably to the rear line of the houses on either side, and then the slope begins down.
Okay.
So it's maybe, 50 or 60 feet of flat area, and then a drop off down to the original, what looks like to be the original elevation at the bottom of the slope.
The original elevation is actually higher than it was because the pipe being put in has retained all the land as the rains came. So the pipe is actually up on the top of the riverbank where the riverbank used to be. In other words, they put that pipe in, and to cover the pipe, they elevated the whole riverbank.
Yeah.
And if you watch 110, it's getting eroded away because now the water doesn't erode on our side the way it used to.
You called this area a road at one point, did you? What do you mean by
And we
that?
always called it a gully. Oh, the road, the concrete road, because it's probably as wide, it's wider than this rail to that wall. and it's a flat granite road
Where? Where is that?
behind my house, behind everybody's house along
Oh,
the river.
okay.
Over
No,
the
I
pipe.
thought you meant it went off of River Road down.
No, no, it's not connected anywhere.
Okay,
It's a road that's built on top of the pipe
yeah,
so that it can be kept clean so roots don't go down and destroy the
Right.
pipe. I see there's
right.
a sense in that, which is brilliant, yeah.
Walking trail, actually, I think.
Well, yeah, if you don't mind people walking in your backyard.
Okay, so we do have an enforcement order. I think at this point, I still have concerns about the volume of the fill. The area just off of River Road might not be our jurisdiction, but I believe you get into the jurisdiction probably by the time you get to, well, I don't have any way to measure it tonight, but I am concerned about the trees, and I thank you for saving some of them, but I would say there's at least 6 inches, maybe a foot in some places around the base of those trunks, and a tree can't survive that.
If I may add, I just wanted to note that the buffer zone is measured from the edge of a resource area, and the bank itself, not the water, the bank is a resource area, so anywhere within 100 feet of the bank of the river would be considered a resource area, so
Okay.
that's how we calculated it, because the bank is a
Do you
pretty
have any way to
significant
measure where it falls on that lot?
I just measured it with my assistant. It's like 120 feet from the water, where the dirt ends that Mr. Plouffe.
I just wanted to mention it's not from the edge of the water, it's from the bank, and I'm not a wetlands scientist, so,
Yeah,
but I think there are also protections regarding like dumping fill in a place where it's could potentially
definitely erode
run
down
into the yeah, so because it's on a slope, we felt like it was also within the jurisdiction, because if in the event of a large storm, the fill could wash into the
Yeah.
river.
I think also that we have a 200-foot buffer here to riverfront area. It's 100 feet to wetlands, but I believe it's 200 to rivers.
That may also be correct.
Okay, well, at this point, I did see the damage that was done to one of the houses on the side where the damage occurred because fill had been put
Yes.
in that area as well. I did notice that. And that's,
That damage
I
was.
don't
coming-
believe it's our board's place to advocate for the restoration of that, but it may be our board's place if it becomes a erosional problem down into this same resource area.
This is. okay.
So, as I said, a few minutes ago, these are the people with the big machines and the big trucks, and I believe some kind of an agreement needs to be done with them, not the Conservation Commission at this point.
In light of the conservation's role in all of this and the fill, I mean, my brother's ready to come down and start filing the lawsuit for restoration of his property. Just fair, his property does need to be restored, and it was the result of putting in that pipe. And if this gentleman is ready to restore it, already has half restored it, what is wrong with that idea? I don't mind cutting the grass, getting down in the shrubs and bushes and taking out paint cans. It's a little bit too much.
Okay, first,
If I may add, Chairman Barnum, I also wanted to add that this is a property owned by the city of Lowell, and so conservation issues aside, this is dumping on the city of Lowell property, and so it should be restored to what it was prior to the dumping, because it's unauthorized dumping of fill into the city of Lowell property.
I guess that's my question. I'm a little confused about the whole circumstances here. Based on the enforcement order, is City of Lowell property. So how did it come to be that SNR was bringing material in? What's the story? I'd like to hear from this gentleman. It's his company that was doing it, right? Yeah, it was. So what are the circumstances here? I don't understand how this material came to be on city property.
It was our intent to fill in the private land, and whether it be that my folks didn't understand where the city's property line was or not. It was not willful or intentional, but we ended up in that area. So at the end of the day, whether you want to pull the tower slope back or do whatever makes sense, I'm not opposed to to any of it. I was just trying to help out somebody.
Okay, well, I've said before, it's my understanding that there needs to be a lot of fill taken out of this particular site, that it's not okay, that the slope is too close to the resource area and too steep and not stabilized. It's loose material. The trees are endangered. If the city of Lowell owns the property, they should be advocating as well. Conservation can only advocate for our own resources. And anytime you have a slope that ends, you do have a problem with stabilizing that slope. So if it were easier to restore it to the original contours, I would be all for that. There needs to be some restoration. And the extent of that, I guess, is what we're trying to determine. I don't know if the city of
Would it make
Lowell
sense
has
to meet up
expressed
there?
an opinion. We don't record comments that aren't taken one at a time. We can't record that. They're putting this on TV, and it doesn't become part of the record.
Would it make sense to
I would-
meet out there?
I think we need to express some direction here. There's probably, you know better than I drove by a couple of those big, long gravel cups today. I'd say there's probably maybe 8 of those in here, at least. You probably know how many truckloads you put in there.
I don't, but
No, but you probably could find out. It
it's
doesn't look like bad material, it's just gravel, but certainly, there was no reason to put it there.
So Commissioner
I
Varnum?
mean, at the bare minimum, it's removal of soil and restoration to make sure that we have no erosion, right?
But I think the scale and scope, Brad, I think we, or, the department, through our environmental agent, could serve as a broker between the property owner and the city of Lowell. I mean, yeah, I agree. Our role is to make sure that when, the area is stable, we remove fill that's within the resource area, so we don't have sedimentation area issues in the river. That being said, since it is the city of Lowell's property, and this gentleman certainly has the right to do things on his property so long as they comport with the Wetlands Protection Act, is there an opportunity to have a meeting between this gentleman, the city of Lowell, and our environmental agent to kind of figure out exactly where that property line is and, what, from there, what should be coming out in terms of fill and how much stabilization needs to be done. And then that can come before the Conservation Commission in order to resolve this enforcement order, which, by the way, I think, I don't believe it's been ratified. I think we should ratify it until this issue's been resolved.
If I may, Chairwoman Farnham.
Go ahead.
Staff already did meet a representative from SNR on site, both Dylan and Building Commissioner Fuller, because we realized that only that part of this is a wetlands issue, and then part of it is the fact that there's dumping on City of Lowell property. So we've already met with the owner on site. I think that the commission, we're happy to meet anyone on site and have a site visit, but I think that the commission should provide some guidance to staff as to what you would like to see removed. And Brad, your suggestion about removal of soil and restoration, we could meet with them to help instruct on site, but I think I would just want to avoid like leaving it all up to the discretion of conservation staff.
I think probably the easiest thing would be to restore to the earlier elevations, and they're readily available on the City of Lowell website. You do work of that type, and certainly your company, along with the city engineers, should be able to determine where those elevations are, and certainly at the time right now, we can determine which is fill and which maybe is original soil. The fill is fairly loose. So I'd like to see restore to original contours. I'd like to see the work of restoration in regard to the trees done by hand, or out probably 4 or 5 feet from the tree, so that the trunks aren't damaged. We're busy making a list, and then if you want to speak again. Well, we have a city who has surveyors, and I'm sure they can find out where the property line is, if that's a concern. So if we could note that with the city. Okay, so we're going to, first of all, determine where the property line is, and perhaps the city is going to be the one to do that. I'd like to see it restored to original.
So, one thing about that, I don't think it's the city's responsibility to determine the property line. In order to make sure that the work is being done on city property, that's the only work that we can really mandate here, I think. It is the responsibility of the contractor of record to make sure that he's working in accordance with the neighbors that contracted him to do whatever work.
Yeah.
That's your issue to work out with him.
Yeah.
It's our ability to mandate that you remove soil from the City of Lowell property and from the resource area.
And if I may add as well, so first of all, we don't have surveyors working for the city. The onus would be on the violator to provide a survey showing where the violation took place relative to property lines, first of all. Second of all, any property that is affected, we will try to avoid stepping on the property, but if it encroaches onto the other gentleman's property, that will also need to be fixed as well. So I know he mentioned that it is on his property, but I mean, the violation, if it spreads to more than one property, then it needs to be.
I think once
remedied on
we
both.
determine what it is should be done, or what we'd like to see done, then the city is going to have to be the watchdog of the work. Certainly the Conservation Commission can't camp out there
Yes.
and watch what's being done.
Yes, but I just wanted to
We want
say
see
that
the end result, and how it gets there maybe is where the city needs to get involved.
yes, we don't have surveyors ready to go.
That's fine, I
Yeah.
didn't mean that the city should do it, I just said I thought they were capable of it. In the olden days, they did have surveyors.
Okay.
So we're in the modern era now, and everyone's a specialist, so.
Okay.
Okay, so the property line is the contractor's responsibility.
Commissioner
if
Arnold,
you-
can I add something to that?
What's that, Bill?
It sounds like part of the ambiguity is because we don't have an overlay of the property line with the resource boundary, correct?
The what?
Doing an overlay of the property lines with the resource boundaries So we know where the work encroaches in the resource, which is where our jurisdiction is, correct?
Okay,
I mean, the first part of that is determining whether it's 100 or 200 feet buffer here.
okay, well, this,
Yeah.
you know, an employee of the
This
city.
is
has
100,
a-
if that means anything, I don't,
I agree, but I'm not sure that that's correct.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's a 200 foot for the river, but I'm not 100% sure either.
yep.
You know, this, we've gotten secondhand here that the city is interested in restoration of the property. I think that's what I took you to say, Fran.
Yes, because in my opinion, the Conservation Commission does have jurisdiction because this dumping could, in a storm event, flush into the
Exactly.
river.
Yes,
So I
exactly.
think
It's
this,
unstable.
yes,
It needs to be fixed.
regardless of whether it's 100 or 110 feet, it's within your jurisdiction because it could negatively affect the resource area.
Okay, so, I'll ask in a minute, who wants to, challenge or change some of these. I want care to be taken in removal around the tree trunks. I saw the large oak already has a nick in it from, something hitting it, and that's not good. I think I mentioned earlier that we should have a silt barrier somewhere down the base of the slope.
At the top, right?
And, you know, if you get back to the original contours, I'm hoping that those are slopes that are going to be able to be stabilized. It didn't look like it was terribly steep, the contours that I looked at, but it does drop, probably about 6 feet down through there.
Yeah, it wouldn't take a lot just to take it back out, you know, it's,
Okay, so at the end of removing the material, you would need to somehow stabilize the slope, loam and seed, hopefully. If you wanted to plant shrubs or something like that to help in that regard, that would be fine with me.
what was the last thing you said? I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah.
Louisa, can you repeat the last line?
Stabilizing the slope? Is that what you had?
Oh, okay. Lumen seed, was that the last thing you'd said?
Lu-
I just wanted to make sure.
Stabilize the slope with loam and, well, not too much loam, we don't want any more fill. With loam and seed and shrubs, if you so desire. If the loam and seed, if it's too steep a slope for that to work, that's when you would need probably some shrubs, juniper, whatever can hold the slope, you know.
Okay.
Forsythia is good at spreading.
Yeah, how do you spell that?
So, I don't know if we want to repeat this or not. Back to original contours, taking care to remove the fill around the trees so the bark isn't damaged, a silt barrier at the bottom of the slope until things are stabilized, and some kind of stabilization once the slope is determined, once the
Established.
final slope is determined.
Okay.
Is there anything else? So that means the enforcement order would be in place until this work is, well, at some point, if you think you're ready to request it to be lifted, but right now, it will stay in place while you're working on this particular project.
Understood.
Yeah, and yeah, just keep in touch with the city. I'm sure you will be because they're concerned as well. Can we have a motion to ratify?
Make a motion to ratify?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, and I'd like to just add this to the ratification, these steps to restore the area. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Have a great night. Keep trying to walk away with the chain pen for some reason.
Good night. We have minutes from the last meeting, May 11th. Do we have a motion concerning the minutes?
Make a motion to approve with Bill's comments.
Yeah, I had one comment. Minutes look great. I just believe for the 5157 Shirley Ave project, we made a +5 determination, not a -3 as written in the notes. So if we could make that correction, then the rest I think is good, and we can approve them.
Which one was that on?
5157
Oh, we
Shirley
did do a
Ave.
+5, that's right. Yeah,
We did a
I remember.
+5, and it's written as a -3.
Good catch, Bill. So, motion made to accept the minutes with one correction. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Perry. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. That's the end of our business, unless there's something else, Fran? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. That's the end of our meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.